to talk about staging your vehicle, specifically backing it into a parking spot, some of the benefits that that brings to you as far as situational awareness and just being aware of your surroundings. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Back to fit, stay in the fight.
If I could remember all the reasons why I started this, pocket full of seeds but can't remember where the garden is. But soon as I find it, best believe that I'll be raising trees. Cut one down to make a bed out of it for the major leagues, representing G&D.
All right, let's talk about backing your vehicle into the parking spot, specifically how this helps you stay more situationally aware and some of the security considerations that this provides. So if you're a first responder, you work in executive protection, most of what I'm going to go over is general knowledge, or at least it should be general knowledge. But even if you don't work in these sort of industries, this is something that you can apply to your everyday life. Okay, the first consideration for backing your vehicle in is probably the most obvious, and it's just the simplicity to be able to get out of that space as soon as possible, as quickly as possible. So ease of egress. If you work in executive protection, then you know that having your vehicle staged and ready to go is super important. You can be with a client, you're going into a venue, you're going into wherever location it is that you're going to go, and if something happens, you want to be able to quickly grab your principal, get him in the car, and have a clear field of view of where you're going and be able to get out of there as quickly as possible. It also applies to you when you're just going to a store, going to a mall, going to the movies, anything like that. You never know what's going to happen, and you always just want to be ready. Now, that being said, when you're going about your everyday life, does that mean that you always have to back into the parking spot, or you should always do it? Situation always dictates. You have to consider where you're at and what you're doing. If you're going to a convenience store to jump out and grab something really quick, is it worth the extra step and time for you to back into the parking spot? It just depends on, do you know the area? Is it a good part of town? Is it dangerous? Is it dark? All of these things have to be considered for you to make that decision. So if you've been around executive protection a while, you know that a lot of time can be spent in your car. Also, as part of your everyday life, you might be dropping the kids off somewhere, you might be dropping your wife off somewhere, and you might be waiting for them. So once you've backed into that spot, it's really easy to forget, but it's a habit you should get into. Always make sure you hit that lock door button and make sure that those doors are locked once you're in place. I know this seems like common sense, but when you're dealing with a lot of different things, you're not really thinking about situational awareness, locking the door is something that you can easily overlook. And I'll give you guys an example. A time that I was working on a detail and I was overseas, I was backed into the parking spot. And of course, customs and cultures are different all around the world. I had my engine running, as I usually do here in the States, and a couple people came by the passenger side and knocked on my window. And I didn't speak the language of the country, so obviously there was a communication barrier. So what they were pretty much telling me and signaling to me was they wanted me to turn the engine off. They were very conscious about the environment. Immediately I kicked into security mode thinking, okay, who are these people? What do they want? Is it really just them asking me to turn my car off, or are they scoping it out? All these different things are going through my head, right? So I try to be as polite as possible and kind of just give them the general, I don't speak the language. Hey, I'm sorry. I get what you guys are saying, but I'm here doing my own thing. I'm working. There was an older man. He went over, he grabbed his younger son. Again, I'm working, so I have to consider all different things, right? Do I get out of the car and confront them and say, hey, get the hell away from my car and this and that, making a bigger scene than is needed? What ended up happening is the younger guy ended up reaching for the door handle and trying to open the door. Now, if I didn't have the doors locked at the time, this guy might have opened the door, he might have tried to grab something, yell, whatever the case is, right? At that point, I would have had to handle it. Point being is that because the doors were locked, all I had to do was simply roll down the window, explain to him, hey man, I get it, turn the car off for a second, let them be on their way, and then go about my business. So just the simple act of having the doors locked prevented an entire situation that was unnecessary. Okay, another thing to consider once you've backed into the parking spot and you're staying in place for a while, you guys have probably noticed it when you've seen people waiting in their cars. The windows will be rolled up. You might be able to hear the music that they're playing from inside their car. You'll see them on their phone, head down. Whatever it is, most people when they're in their car, they're distracted and not really paying attention to what's going on around them. There's something really simple that you can do to help keep you alert to what's going on outside, and that's simply just cracking your window a little bit so that you can hear the noises from the outside coming into your car. So if you are on your phone, if you are listening to music and you hear somebody walking by or you hear something outside, at least it'll draw your attention to get you to look in that direction. One thing you want to be aware of is to not roll your windows all the way down. This exposes you to unnecessary risk. So if you're not paying attention, if you're here on your phone, it's really easy for somebody to sneak up on either side. And if they come on this side, it's really easy for them to grab your phone, run with it, or whatever valuables you have in plain view. Or worse, for them to attempt and try to steal your car. So being backed into the parking spot gives you a greater field of view, right? You're able to see directly in front of you, mostly, for the most part, a 360 view all around you. If you're in executive protection, then the building that your client or your principal is inside of is directly in front of you, so you can see who's coming in and out of that building, and if anything goes wrong, you're able to react quickly. Another way to increase your view is just adjusting all your mirrors. Sometimes the most advantageous position of those mirrors when you're driving isn't necessarily the best one for when you're in a static position. Just take a quick minute to look at your side view mirrors, adjust them so that you can see as much as possible, adjust your rear view mirror so you can see clearly behind you. Also, in newer vehicles, most of them have that backup camera. So you can actually utilize that backup camera when you're in the parking spot, when you're in a static position. Turn it on, and that's going to allow you to see anybody approaching from behind or anything going on behind you. Now, once you've backed into your parking spot and you've taken all these measures, you should be constantly assessing your position and assessing your environment. There's a lot of things you can tell about a place and a population just by the cars that are in the parking lot. So you can tell a lot by looking at bumper stickers, the types of vehicles. Are they new? Are they old? Are they luxury? Are they normal everyday vehicles? The people that are walking around the parking lot, those types of things. Also, when you're working in a protective capacity, you always want to be looking to move yourself to the most advantageous position. Just because you're parked and you're now static in a spot doesn't mean you have to stay there. A position opens up that wasn't previously available, and it gives you a better field of view. It's closer to an exit, anything like that. You want to go ahead and position yourself to that new spot. All right, guys, that wraps it up. I just wanted to give you guys a basic general overview. There's a lot of things to consider when talking about vehicle security, staging your vehicle, the type of equipment you should have in your vehicle, all those types of things, but this is just one aspect of that. If you guys have your own experience, your own tips, think of something that I missed, go ahead and leave it down in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you haven't, visit vactivefit.com. It's the blog that complements most of the videos that I post. I appreciate you guys watching. Until next time, Vactive Fit, stay in the fight.